All right, so we're just going to go ahead and fire this up. Ed should be back with us momentarily. He's having some technical difficulties with the link, but he'll be here, and then the picture will also get better because I'll be smaller. But hello and welcome, everybody. Sorry for starting a couple of minutes late. I will once again be looking at the comments via my phone, so if you see me checking down, that is why. Make sure we get it on live chat. And also, I am in the process of filling up some tanks. Hey, there's Ed. Can you hear me, buddy?
Yes, I can.
All right, and I can hear you. So fantastic.
Oh,
Apologies if my audio is not great this week. I did, in fact, bring my mic. I brought the Yeti. The problem I didn't think of is when I plug it into the phone, it tries to divert. There we go. It tries to divert the audio, so the Bluetooth doesn't work. So I have to have one of my plug-in headsets to plug into the Yeti when I'm using it with the phone. So I unplugged it because I couldn't hear Ed. But nevertheless, here we are. It's good to see you. Ed, how have you been, my friend?
Oh my gosh, it's been a crazy week. I bought this new computer, and that also was part of the delay. Was I don't have the link to get onto StreamYard on this computer, and I was just sitting there for 20 minutes waiting, just looking at the cool. It has a neat screensaver thing, and that wasn't very smart either. So I apologize. But I was gonna run to Florida with my dad tomorrow and try to see Dr. Anthony's speech, and then drive back because we've got the big party on Saturday or on Sunday here in Knoxville. So, but my car's been broken the whole time, and I've been working on it like crazy. And now I think I need to add a new starter or solenoid.
I'm sorry to hear that, buddy. I am.
Yeah, well, that's how it goes.
That. There we go. Hey there, Brianne. Good to see you. Thanks for the nice haircut. I appreciate that. I got one spot that I missed. I got to kind of catch. It's been driving me nuts. But yeah, I'm at the new place, doing a couple of water changes, and then setting some new tanks up, holding tanks to get the like piranha and things moved out of the big tank. And I have got a bit of a rant tonight. But before I go into that, Ed, did you want to talk about Fish Fam Christmas some before
sure.
Before we get past it and we forget to go back to it?
Yeah, Fish Fam Christmas is about here. It's the last 2 weeks of December, and anybody who's live streaming that signed up for it can have Santa Claus show up and give out a gift. Nobody's like getting rich off this except for the viewers. So everything's been donated. That's going to be given away by the audience here, by some of the stores, by all sorts of different places for donations. And what we'll be doing is any random time on my stream, James's stream, on Foxy Fishes, on TGOE, any of these channels could randomly have tail flick. Oh, don't get on my computer. Sorry. Baby cat loves to walk on the computer. Can have Santa Claus up and give out a thing or something. Oh my gosh, she just knocked over some of my samurai stone. Okay. And let's see what Stephen P just said, because he's one of the brainier guys of the operation. Fish Fam Christmas should be made a mod to help things go smoothly during the giveaway. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No problem. There's a particular person called Fish Fam Christmas. So when that name comes up, James will probably make him a mod, or I can't do it on James's.
But... Absolutely. Yeah, if it pops up in here, I can do it via my phone. Otherwise, I have to get my computer unpacked and go in there and deal with it. So yeah, it's great advice. We can't tell you when Santa will be by because we don't want anybody to try and kidnap him en route, because he's a popular guy. And like Rico Stan said, check out fishfam.link to get all the info on all the channels that you should be watching. Let's grab some stuff from the chat real quick, and then I'll go into my rant about why I am extremely frustrated this week. Patty's Petite Tank saying hello to us. Hey, Patty, good to see you. I hope you are doing well. Drink Water, been a member for 15 months, 16 months, excuse me, using that membership milestone. Super Chat says, howdy, everyone, 16 months. I'm sure that's fly, and I do greatly appreciate you, Drink Water. All of the members and the supporters, what you all do helps the channel, helps myself out significantly with the fish room stuff and the streaming and whatnot. And this is not going to be the final way we stream. I've got a new desk set up over here that I've acquired that everything's going to go through. This is just kind of the transitional phone on the tripod, working through it every week to make it a little better until we finally get moved, which we'll talk more about here in a moment. But thank you again, Drink Water, and hello to you. We had Master Aquatics, just call him Eduardo, gifted 5 memberships. Eduardo, thank you so much. And of course, a long-time member himself. I do really appreciate you, Eduardo, as I hope you know, and I'm sure you know. And for some reason, I'm back on Top Chat. So let me fix that real quick. I don't know why it went to Top Chat, but Eduardo, very much appreciate that. And hello and welcome to the new members that received memberships. I've not seen it just yet, but I'm sure I will catch it somewhere. There we go. Gabriel Glass Fox is new local Austin, Scotty, Aquati, and Brienne, who's under Cody, and Dennis Christensen all received memberships from Eduardo. So huge shout out, huge thank you. Of course, you all can check out the behind the scenes content and see what's going on. There will be a lot more to come. We've got a lot going on as we move into this next chapter and give all these fish a big forever home and build out the brand and all of that fun stuff and just enjoy fish together. There's Fish Fam Christmas. We are here. All right, action. It's very slow, very slow. Add moderator. There we go. All right. One of the few moderators, we don't really make moderators anymore. We've got so many loyal people that have had it from the beginning. There we go. That's done. Gabriel Quest Boxes says, as long as we are subscribed and in chat when Santa shows, we are eligible to win. That is correct, if I'm not mistaken. Ed, do you want to verify that?
I think so. Hang on. I was bringing up the live feed to give a thumbs up and to pop out the chat. So I'm so sorry. I'm away from the normal stuff. Okay, let me see.
I'm sure that either Stephen P, awesome guy by the way, or Rico or Fish Fam Christmas themselves have probably already confirmed that in the chat. I just haven't gotten down that far. Gabriel's last box is that one. Okay. Hello, Sky Dancer. Always good to see you.
Honestly, how James and I do it is if you want to talk in chat, you need to sub to be a member, or not a member, but a subscriber. So you can't really have a chance to win if you're not a subscriber because you have to be able to type in the chat.
That is technically true. Yes, it does help keep some of the riffraff out if it's subscribers only in the chat. So Ed and I both switched to that quite some time ago. Let's see, Scotty the Fish Freak says, please remind Ed to make sure Nico doesn't spill as pop.
Nico is, where is he? He's sleeping, well, he's not quite asleep. He's getting close. I think he just burped. That was weird.
Good old Mickham says, hey, James, Ed, and everyone. Now, since the one streaming ahead of you brought some sadness, can you please cheer us all up with some good old feeding the piranhas moment? Question mark, no, question mark, LOL. I mean, it is, you know, it's a great thing, everything that we're progressing towards, getting to the property, building out the fish room. It's going to open up a whole new chapter for everything fish keeping wise. There's just some struggles along the way. I like to say the way that life tends to work out, at least for me and those closest to me, is it's always like 11:59 and 59 seconds. It's like right before midnight when things finally come through. Like it gets bad, and then it gets really bad, and then it gets really bad, and then everything works out. So, sorry, I've just seen a field mouse go across the floor. I guess that's one of the perks of being in the country. The cats are not out here yet. The cats will love that.
What'd you just see?
Yeah, a field mouse.
Oh, yep.
I guess they decided with all this rain they were going to find a way in. But we've got several cats, and they are all mousers, and so that won't be a problem for very long once we get them up here.
10 days of rain.
Joys of living in the country. Yeah, that has been a delay with moving. What? Hold on here. Let me make sure I don't accidentally ban someone while I'm trying to scroll through here. All right. LiveStream Christmas, thank you. You are more than welcome for being made a moderator. And Carol Cox, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. That says a little help for the new studio. I do greatly appreciate that, and that means a lot. It's once we get everything to finally pull together, it'll be nice. I won't bore you all with all the details tonight. We've talked some about it in the past streams, but there are a lot of shenanigans. Like we were talking about the things getting dark and then brightening. The well that is attached to all the homes on the property that we have, I've mentioned before, is actually located on like a quarter of an acre that is not part of our property, that person died and it went to a reverse finance company. The reason I mention that is because the power to that well was scheduled to be shut off in 2 weeks. And so we were trying to figure out what we were going to do. And a new well is $25,000. Fortunately, we were able to get that worked out so that we will be able to get a well installed, and we will have running water. That's always nice. And country living's fun, but I do like my running water. I'm probably going to keep freaking out and looking over here while I'm filling these tanks up. But again, a huge thank you, Carol Cox. That will definitely be put to good use. All right. So I'm going to do a little rant here, and I want to preface this. And Sarah, I see you for those 5 memberships gifted. I appreciate that. I'll give you a huge thank you here in a minute. Let me preface this with, if you work at FedEx or are a FedEx employee, I am not complaining at you. I am complaining at the system. This is not against anyone personally, but it has been a lot of shenanigans. I ordered the heavy duty 4-tier rack like what Ed uses in his fish room as part of this is temporary. This is all, we'll say probably till springtime when we can build out the fish room. So there's got to be some work done, and we're going to chronicle all that and record it and have a lot of fun doing that. But I ordered one of the metal racks to go right here, like right along here. So there would be an L shape of aquarium, and I've downsized as much as I can and compacted things. Went on Walmart, was going to pick it up at the store, couldn't pick it up at the store. Why did I go to Walmart? Because they had the best price, is what it is.
Sure.
So it was shipping only. So I was like, well, I'll just have it shipped to the house. It's free shipping. That works out great. You know, I can have it delivered out there. I can install it. I don't really have to fiddle with trying to get it. That's fine. Perfect. Free shipping. Send it to the new home. So, you know, process goes through, getting the notifications. It's scheduled to be delivered, and then it gets delayed. And then every day it was the same thing. It would get, they'd send out a notification. It was loaded on the truck. It would notify me it was out for delivery. It would then say there was an operational delay, and then it would say it was taken back to the hub in Kodak, Tennessee, which is not close to here. So after 4 days of that happening and trying to get through customer service, which I did not have the best experience with them, most of them are non-locally call center based. We're going to put it that way, at least the ones I spoke to. And basically all they could do was read the same information that I had available to me on the website and say, well, it went out for delivery. It's going to be there. And I'm like, no, it's really not. It's got a delay on it, and it's going back to their house. Finally, I got through to the Kodak hub where this thing was at, or it kept bouncing around from, because it's not a public number. So it took some finagling to actually get through to them. And the woman that helped me there, she was amazing. She was very friendly. She, you know, did everything she could to help me out. And I guess finally what FedEx said was, well, the best thing to do is have you pick it up in Knoxville at one of our pickup facilities on the strip, down by the campus, by the campus. So there's no parking. There's nowhere to really pick it up. But figured I'd make it work. Finally, yesterday, so almost a week of delays later, I went to pick this thing up, and my God, it looked like they had driven over it with the truck. It looked like they were loading it under the truck and not in the truck every day. I got there to pick it up, and the lady that was there was very helpful. She said, I want you to look at this before you sign for it, because I personally wouldn't sign for it. And we looked at it, and a lot of the box was missing, and it was just tape. So they had just taken tape, plastic, or packaging tape, and wrapped around it. And the frame was just all bent up. I mean, I don't know how it could incur that much damage without some sort of machinery being driven onto, into, or over it. So needless to say, then you have to wait up to a week for Walmart to refund it, which is fine. That's whatever. And now I have to try and find another one. So what I'm doing is I've got a couple of 2x4s laid down on the floor here, and I've got 5 29-gallon tanks that I bought during that goof up that Petco had, I guess a year and a half or so ago, when they were like 60 cents a gallon if you ordered online. You remember that? Yeah. All these, they still had like all the paperwork in them. I had to take out all the little food samples and everything that Aquarium tapes in them. So we're filling those up as temporary tanks. That way I can get the piranha and things moved over, and I've got some more temporary tanks to set up. It is one of the joys of having lots of extra tanks, is I can do quite a few holding tanks. And so that's what we're working on right now. I've got pretty much the third one filled up. Got our water changer here, and we're going to move to the fourth one. I hope I don't forget about it since it's slightly behind me. So yeah, so that's been extremely frustrating. I think I'm just going to have Northern Tool order one for store pickup. It's like $20 more, but at least I can actually go pick it up. I went and looked at the reviews earlier today on that rack specifically regarding the shipping, and there are several hundred reviews that are just 1-star, FedEx destroyed it, 1-star, UPS destroyed it, 1-star, there was only half a box and it was missing pieces, 1-star, it's completely been out of shape and it's fallen apart, and I had to refuse it and send it back. Or a lot of people actually accepted it, or I guess had it dropped off, and then had to try and repackage it for FedEx to come pick up, which was a huge nightmare from what I would imagine and what I was reading. So it could have been worse, but that has been my frustration this week, because we had to postpone the moving truck in order to be able to load those big tanks onto it. I needed that rack, and I needed these temporary tanks. But we're just going to make do with this. It's going to be a bigger pain in the butt, but we'll make it work. We always do. Get some water here, because I've been sweating. I just got all this stuff moved around and set up and moving furniture before you all joined us here. So that's been my frustration. But I am very thankful that we're getting through the process, and that's probably enough of me ranting. I'll dive back into the chat here. We got 78 people watching. That's amazing, and I appreciate it. Again, sorry for the stream quality. It's something we are working on as we progress and transition over to the new location. I will have my laptop and everything set up. Right now, I've actually got holding aquariums on that desk, which is about 6 feet that way. Well, it's a little bit further than that, but it's a huge desk. It's 3 foot front to back, the desk is. So that's going to have ample room for all the fun things to do all the streaming and hook everything up and have the monitors and get everything set up like we need it to be. I may even do a desk tank over there. I've done that before. This desk certainly facilitates it, so that will be fun. But again, I'm going to jump back to Sarah, the Savannah Darter. A huge thank you. Gifted 5 Fish Room Fever memberships. Super awesome of you, Sarah. And I love you and I appreciate you. And I think and hope you know that. Take a Sister Rena saying hello. Hi, my friends. Hope you all have better weather than me. It's way too cold here in North Dakota. It's not been that cold, but there has been a lot of rain. That's been another issue with moving, is the rain. So Sunday looks like our moving day. Friday is the rain is supposed to kind of stagger off, taper off. Saturday there's not supposed to be any rain, and then Sunday there's not supposed to be any rain. So I'm shooting for Sunday, because I do have a storage building next to the house we're moving from, and there's about 30 feet of yard, which just turns into a mud pit. these haven't rained, even though it's all grass, it just completely turns into a mud pit. So it's still going to be nasty, but hopefully it won't be as bad, and we won't have to move in the rain. But that's kind of the final. It's going to happen whether it rains or not. We'll have to get everything moved just because we got to get the ball rolling here. Yeah, but it's good to see you, Rena. So let's see here. Bunny Viper, Efficient Floral, TGOE Shelby K, Scruffy City, and Aqua Gardens Inn were all recipients of those memberships gifted by Sarah J. Seabley, the Savannah Darter. So a huge welcome to all of you all. There is some behind-the-scenes content for you to go check out if you've not previously been a member and had access to it. And of course, the thing that I think most people enjoy are the emojis and things in the chat. But welcome to all of you all, and glad to have you as part of the Fish Room Fever family. All right, let me get a scrolling, because I'm sure I'm getting behind here. Rolling and scrolling, looking for highlighted stuff. Oh, it's just, all right. My phone did a thing. It did a thing. Hey, Ken's 3D and Aquatic. For some reason, some of the stuff's not highlighting. Like Ken didn't highlight the Fisherman Fever. Wife had the fry today. 7 pounds, 1 ounce. Hot damn. Ken, congratulations on the little one. Glad everybody is well. And I would assume happy and healthy. So kudos to you on that. And congrats, my friend. That's awesome. Love it. There's Nico there. Hi, Nico. He can't hear me, but I'm still going to say hi. So here's a good one. I'm going to butcher your name probably. Corridolin Works. It says, not that you have any extra boxes, but you can use layered cardboard to make a temporary path over the mud if you need to. That is great advice. That's one of the things I've considered, even though I know I really don't have the extra boxes. I do, however, have a decent bit of wood, enough to make probably a dolly pathway, but we'll see just how bad it is. Hopefully it's not terrible. Worst case is, you know, I get the dolly muddy and I clean it off before we go to the in-the-house stuff. But I want to pack that stuff first. You would think, well, just do the stuff inside first. I want that stuff at the back of the truck so that when I arrive here, I can unload the things that go in the house, and then I can pull the truck to the other part of the property where there's the storage building, and I can offload all the storage stuff over there at the end of it. I could vice versa that, but I've also got some things in this house that need to go down there. So it's kind of like pull up here, offload, unload a couple of items, and then pull all the storage things down to the storage area. But that is a good tip, and I do appreciate that very, very much. All right, roll on through here. And as Paul Sotero said on there, to get my attention, type @FishroomFever. Get your question or comment highlighted. We will read it live on the air. I was going to do 10 things that every aquarium keeper should have, partially as that list itself, but also because we've got the holidays coming up, and there's some gift ideas on there. But hey, Lisa, good to see you. Late but made it. Always glad to have you. Late or not, I can't find that list. I packed it in one of these totes of aquarium stuff, and I can't. That's me freaking out because I forgot about the water. It's good. We're good. I can't find the list, and I can't remember all the 10 things because I had like 20 things, and I really went through and narrowed it down to some good ones. But we may here in just a minute talk about at least 5 things I know off the top of my head every fish keeper needs, and a lot of new people don't even think about it. They don't really think about it until they're in the situation. They've got their new tank, they've got their new fish, and then they're like, I don't have this. I need this. So we'll probably talk about that for just a second. Let's see. Patty Sweet Tank says, Dr. Vasilier says we should be heating our frozen food to kill pathogens. What do you think about that? So I'm going to give you 2 answers to that. And real quick, salience, yes and no on the new mic. I can't use the Yeti because I didn't think about it. I have to have one of my headsets that plugs into the Yeti when I'm streaming from the phone to divert so I can hear Ed. So unfortunately, I'm using the microphone that's on these Bluetooth earbuds, which is not great. These are not expensive earbuds, and they're not designed. They're not something I purchased ever intending to use the microphone, particularly for streaming, which is why we have, you know, a Yeti Blue mic and and all the software and stuff to process the audio. But we will be back to that mic next time. I'll remember to, I'll have the headset here. So I could use my Xbox headset for that matter and plug it in. But I have no plug-in headset here to use that mic. So apologies for the audio. Back to Patty, in terms of the heating the frozen food to kill pathogens, the first thing I'll say is I am not a doctor, nor am I a scientist, nor am I a biologist. I am just a guy who has kept fish for a very long time and kept a lot of fish over that time frame. So I will not say that is wrong on any scientific or evidentiary basis, because I haven't studied it. I haven't researched it. I don't have the lab and the means to do all of that. So if you look at that from a scientific standpoint and you look at whatever research was done on that, and you personally find that that's enough evidence from that research to sway you into doing so, then do so. That being said, I have used frozen foods for over a decade, 15 years. I don't know. I can't remember how far back I started using frozen foods. I think it started when I was in saltwater and I had predators, so I would buy like frozen silversides and frozen krill and things like that for predator fish. But I've used a lot of frozen foods over the years. What's that?
I think I first used it 25 years ago when I got discus.
Yeah, I've never done that. And to the best of my knowledge, I've never been able to contribute any issues to that, nor have I noticed any trend of issues reoccurring as I use that stuff. So from just this is the standpoint I like to take on any advice or information I give, is always just what I know, what I've done, and how it's worked for me. I have never had a problem. We're still good. I've never had a problem not preheating frozen food. So I'm not going to start doing it. Because I've never had, I think the only time that possibly I could have had any issue from a frozen food would have been if it like thawed out and refroze and I didn't realize it, like maybe during a power outage. I can remember maybe once or twice over the years where like had something like that happen, and then I'm like, it's like, no, this is not good anymore. I'm going to get rid of it. But I've never had an issue from just buying frozen food, keeping it frozen, and feeding it out. I do a lot of times throw my frozen foods into tank water to let them thaw a little bit before I throw it in there. But that's also partially for dispersion. That way I can, dispense it out. I can get in there with a pipette or whatever, or turkey baster, and I can suck it up and I can feed it to the different tanks. But no, I've not had an issue, and I probably won't start heating up my frozen foods. It is interesting. I'll definitely want to look into that. I will probably forget, given that I'm not going to take the time to research it probably until after I get moved and settled in and the fish are taken care of. But
the grossest thing that ever happened to me with frozen food, my biggest mistake was I still sometimes buy the great big things of jumbo bloodworms, the packs, and I put them on the counter and I try to break it into like long slivers and I break it like that. Well, one time I broke it all up for my fish and then I left it out and I didn't find it for like a month later. It was right on my kitchen table just sitting there. So smelly and nasty.
Yeah, that would be a little rough. Definitely wouldn't mess with that. But yeah, I don't have issues with it. So I will at some point try to remember to do the research and look into that, because I am curious. But it's not going to sway me, I don't think. All right, let me get back up here. I know there was a question about Aquashella. All right, there's Patty. And then Tom Patterson, welcome back. I think Tom changed his card. I think I saw that pop up somewhere. Welcome back.
It happens.
Re-upping. It says welcome, but re-upping, coming back as a member. Thank you so much, Tom. Very much appreciate you being a part of the Fish Room Fever family, my friend. Rena says,
You know,
unfortunately, my friends, I have to take off. I'll catch the replay. Good night. Well, when you're catching the replay, Gina, or Rena, wow, you're probably already gone. So hello again, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks for being here.
probably the advantage and disadvantage to cards disappear, or your getting a new card and losing all your memberships. The one advantage is the people that like left YouTube that you still have memberships to. You aren't paying or donating anything to them anymore, because that
There you go.
happened to me. It's like I had to restart all my card, and I lost a bunch that I realized, oh, those people aren't even around anymore.
Absolutely. So Cora Dillon Works says, every fish keeper needs a test tube rack with drying rods, maybe a test tube brush too. They won't buy it for themselves, but it is such a game changer. I could see that if you were doing like liquid test kits. Um, I could come up with some different uses. I have a bunch of like little test tubes and things. I don't have a drying rack or drying rod. I do like that idea. I personally like that. I think that's just a cool little thing, but I'm weird like that. But I don't have like a typical thing that I would use it for necessarily. But I do like that. I'm trying to think of like, because I don't use the liquid test kits anymore. I use the easy test strips from the co-op. Um, but I think that would be something nice to have. So I do like that suggestion. Thank you for that. Watch Chattanooga Ed live in 30 minutes. Just got my notification there. Ken
Holy
said, I'm
cow.
just glad your internet are stable. Yeah, so I'm actually streaming off of my cell phone service. So I'm glad it's doing well. Once I get the laptop up here and installed, get all the monitors mounted and all the audio stuff set up on the desk that I'm looking at over there. This tank almost got me. Let me change that over to there. The modem and everything runs in right next to the desk, so I'm going to hardwire it in with a very short cord, probably just a 5-foot cord. So it's going to be about as good as it gets. I don't expect it to be great, but we're going to give it a try. That will probably be a couple of member streams, like we've done with some other trial things. Yeah, to see how well that works. But worst case scenario, I do know that my phones will push at least a decent feed anyway, and we'll continue to progress. I'm looking into switching to the business class with the company that does provide internet out here. And then if that doesn't work, Starlink is not available until sometime in 2023. But as was mentioned to me, there is Starlink RV. So we may drop the money on that RV setup to see if that will work. I know that pretty much like the eastern side of the country, it says that the service is not optimal for Starlink. Like it's not the higher end if you look at their coverage area. But we'll see. We're going to keep working on it. We'll get it to where it needs to be at. Those of you that have been around for a while know that I take that stuff very seriously in terms of trying to bring you all at least quality audio and video, even if the content's not great, right? So we'll get it there. Sailor wants to know what's the best mic for YouTube videos. Been using a Rode mic. Rode is a great company. I really like the Yeti Blue. Depending on how you're filming and whatnot, you can, like I use that to plug it into my phone. Both of my phones, I can actually run my Yeti Blue through them and record on there. Software is another thing though. Like typically my live streams, they are all run through an NVIDIA processing software live, as we're going, and it's killing all the background noise. You don't hear the kids running down the hallway. You don't hear the air pumps. Like I had to turn this one air pump off for the stream because it's not, I haven't set up my linear air pump from the co-op. I just have a bunch of random air pumps attached to a bunch of different tubes right now. And one of them is going bad. I keep it because it still works, but it makes a lot of noise. So if I turn it up, you would just hear pretty much like a generator or a compressor pumping in the background. So we killed that for the stream. Yeah, I mean, you've got a Rode mic to go with that. Typically, that is a good mic. And I've also got a Rode mic that I do have for mobile filming as well. that I can hook onto my my gimbal. I have a Rode that I hook onto my gimbal when I'm on the move. All right. So
I'm gonna have to get one of those.
Well, go ahead, buddy.
Look, I have to keep the mic down here on this new PC. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
In the old days, I could just had it straight up.
Huh. That is weird. I don't know. I know that Ed and I need to get together once I get everything set up and kind of work through and finesse all of the audio and video stuff, especially with you having a new computer. Rika Stan said, did you both hear Don, at least from KG, will be at the Clash this year? Still some other surprises, I think, too. I did not hear that, but that is awesome. I don't know exactly what all I'll be getting out to this upcoming year. Somebody did ask about when Aquashella was going to be scheduled. I honestly don't know. I don't have any information that I can give on that. I would tell you that most companies, most shows, kind of announce around the first of the year. So I would just kind of wait and see, and that's about all you can do at this point. MNC said, my new fish room this time will have a mini fridge, unlike the last one. Yeah, so that's actually, we are bringing, it's just a 21 cubic foot, your basic refrigerator. We're bringing that from the old house, but it's actually going to go down to storage for now because that's going to be my fridge for the fish room. It's functional, but every once in a while it likes to be finicky if you overload it with too much stuff, which anything if you overload it is not good. But it'll work perfect for fish foods, frozen and other stuff, and I can have like frozen foods and some cold drinks and stuff, and you know, that way people come over to visit the fish room. We got pops, as some people would say, and water and all that stuff down there. That is very awesome, very, very awesome. I think if you've got an actual fish room, a little mini fridge in there, mini fridge and freezer, it's an awesome thing to have. Hey there, Oinky, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Here we go. That was not for me. Paul says, to interrupt my train of thought, add at Fishroom Fever to your question or comment. Absolutely right. Just like Paul did right there. Salient wants to know if I will be taking over 8 p.m. live streams in place of KG Tropicals. That is something that Ed and I need to discuss. I'm not so bold as to assume to just make up Ed's schedule and say, hey, Ed, we're going at 8 o'clock. You know, so Ed and I need to discuss that. Go ahead.
I had some neat ideas that I wanted to run by James, but I don't want to do it here live. Like I said, I was on this computer so early, just sitting here like a doofus. So, but sorry, James and I will talk tonight.
I had it loaded, and I kept watching for a guest, and there was no guest, so I kept going back to filling tanks and moving things, and I looked like there's still no guests, and but yeah.
Well, finally, I logged on with my telephone to tell him.
Yeah.
But he didn't have my sound on, so he couldn't hear me. So all I could see was his backside filling tanks.
Yeah, my the Bluetooth, or not Bluetooth, but the Yeti Blue mic was working great for picking me up. Unfortunately, I couldn't hear anything from Ed, so you know, it is what it is. But yeah, that's something that we will probably look at. Matt West says, I built my own test tube rack out of scrap wood and 1/4 inch dowel for less than $1. That is the way to do it. That is definitely the way to do it. I love the do-it-yourself stuff, and I think that's awesome. Thank you for 140, 150 people being here. Greatly appreciate you all swinging by. Again, apologies for audio and video quality while we're on the cell phone tonight, and don't have the streaming stuff set up at the new house. But we'll have it there for next week. Roll through here. Jeff H. using that membership milestone super chat. Been a member for 9 months. Thank you so much, Jeff. So it's first stream in a while. Great meeting y'all in Chicago. Absolutely, 100%. I love that. Is always my favorite part of any of the events, an Aquashella or any type of fishy thing, is just hanging out with the people, getting to talk to new people, getting to meet people for the first time that I've talked to on the interweb. I love that. That's what I'm there for, is to talk to other people. So absolutely awesome to meet you as well, Jeff. Thank you for being a member. There's Linky, good old Link Master Supreme forever, been a member for 4 months using that membership milestone super chat. Says, what, if any, plant fertilizers do you both use? Ed, you want to take that one first since I've been talking over you a bit tonight?
Was it the best fish fertilizers?
Yeah, what if any, plant fertilizers do we use?
I use the Easy Green, the Co-op Easy Green. Man, okay. I didn't believe that I could grow plants. I did it. I attempted for almost 40 years. And once everybody was talking about these LEDs, Sean Peck was making incredible fish tanks with tons of plants. Corey was always talking about how his plants, the first tank or the first light I bought one of the Fluval 3.0s. Is that what the newest one is, or is it a 4? Whatever the big one that Corey had like 4 years ago or whatever. And then I got the Easy Green, and I've been hooked on plants ever since. And someone, darn it, it just moved. Somebody asked for things that discounts for small fish tanks or small fish rooms, and so James and I will get to that in a minute. But I tell you, I love the Easy Green, and I also have one tank that is all gravel, and I've almost gone complete. Oh, I also use dirted soil. I do a sand cap, so I use organic soil. I do worm castings in there. I put a couple other different things so that my plants have roots. They're getting a ton of nutrition out of the soil, and theoretically, the mulm and stuff is supposed to drift through the sand on these things and keep recharging the soil on the theory of the sand cap. And so far I haven't had any tanks like go like barren. Would that like dry out with nutrition? All the growing plants are still going good, so maybe it works. I mean, it's made incredibly great plants for a low price, and I absolutely love it. But for the gravel tanks, I'll use the pellets, or is it called, what's it called, a pellet that you stick in, or a pill, or
I use the Easy Root tabs.
Chip?
That's what I use.
Tabs. And I've used almost everybody because I used to have a membership to the Aquarium box. And it seemed like every other month I got a different type of root tab. So I still have root tabs from my aquarium boxes. And I only have one tank that I use them in. So, but yeah, I use any type of root tabs. But I'm sure that the Easy Green root tabs are probably really good too.
Yeah, I personally also use the Easy Green liquid fertilizer, and then I use Easy Root tabs. I have a dirty tank, which I don't even think I'll be setting back up, and I've done dirty tanks, and they work well. But I'm kind of lazy / busy, so it's nice to just be able to shove some root tabs in there and not have to do the mix, even though those are fun tanks to do. But I really like the co-op root tabs. I've used some other ones before, but I started using those and was like, okay, that is a lot of root growth and plant growth for my heavy root feeders. So those are the two main things that I go with. Very rarely I need the Easy Iron. I have a bottle just to have it. I do have 1 or 2 tanks that I'll put it in and have like my red tiger lotuses and things like that. But honestly, I would say if you were going to, I would get the tabs before I would get the iron. So like me, I would get the liquid fertilizer, tabs, and then iron. If you don't have anything that needs out of the water column, you could skip the liquid fertilizer. But I think most people would probably do better. This tank's getting close to full, is why I keep peeking over. Most people would probably do better to take that money that they're spending on the Easy Iron that they probably really don't need and aren't actually sufficiently set up to be utilizing properly, and getting the root tabs if they've got heavy root feeding plants. There's a question here that wasn't highlighted. I'm going to try and find it real quick. It's from Danielle. Let me see it. It was about So I'm just going to paraphrase it because I can't find the exact question. Danielle, I'm sorry. Oh, here we go. Danielle says, I have a question. I'm looking at making a shrimp tank. What all plants should I put in it? Honestly, that's a lot of personal preference. There's not anything that I'm really aware of that is better for a shrimp tank and or worse for a shrimp tank. Uh, they are natural grazers. They graze all the time, so they're going to enjoy things that have, grazing area to them, broader leaves, things of that nature. But they enjoy everything from mosses to anubias, val, crypts, Amazon swords. I would look at it in the sense of what do you want to put into it, and then plant it or scape it that way. There's not really a wrong way to go with what type of plants you add to your shrimp tank. That's just my 2 cents on it. So really, it's just a matter of what you would like to do. The shrimp aren't really going to give you any limitations on how you can plant it. Ed, your 2 cents?
Yeah, it's really, shrimp are amazing because they're little gardeners, they'll take care of and clean your plants. So it's more like, what plants do you think you like, and then they'll help you maintain a better plant. The only thing I would probably stay away from is hornwort, because I've had problems with hornwort falling apart in my tank. But I don't know. I think almost everything else, plants or shrimp, just absolutely love them. So, yep. I don't think you can go wrong. I think one really neat plant to think about is Madagascar fern, and or Madagascar lace plant, because it's really cool because it's got those little squares through it, and you can see the shrimp on both sides, and it gives, I think, more area for the shrimp to clean. So that's pretty cool. And that plant is a lot cooler than what you would think. It was one of my first plants, and I thought, this is going to be my hard plant. I'm going to go with a bunch of easy plants. That was hands down my best plant I had. They're designed for current. I thought it would be really delicate, but the holes are made for current to go right through the plant. So that's cool. It's a bulb, and the trick to that is to take 3 rocks, and I'm going to use paint bottles, but take 3 rocks and then place the root ball right on top. So and put the rocks under the soil or the sand, and then put that root ball so it's like 50% under the water or under the sand. So that way it's not going to rot. And the rocks keep it in place, and you'll never have a problem. They get real, and people freak out because it's a plant that gets real big and then it falls apart and gets real small, but it'll get real big and put out this cool looking weird flower. It's like a 6-foot stem that it'll go all over the tank and then finally go up and out, and it's about the size of my finger. So it's a couple inches, and it's like a little banana of pink or white flowers. And then it seems like after that pollinates, the whole plant kind of crashes and gets small, and then in a couple months it bounces back. It's a really neat plant, so I highly recommend that if you've got shrimp, because I think shrimp love that plant.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm also with you on hornwort. Hornwort tends to. It does great until it doesn't, and as soon as it doesn't, it just sheds and it murders your tank, and it can cause some serious spikes in your levels. So hornwort is one that I would avoid, particularly in a shrimp tank, just because they can be a bit more sensitive. So if you do have that thing die off and start to spike your levels because it's decaying and decomposing, they may be a little bit more susceptible to those numbers rising versus some fish or hardier things. Let's see here. Grab some stuff out of there. I did see John and Lisa with that super chat. We'll get to that officially here in a minute, but a huge thank you to both of you all. You will be missed on Thursday night. Paul Sotero says, James, all my tanks have gravel substrates and the plants grow like weeds with nothing more than easy green and fish poop. Yes, so I did that method for the longest time. Actually, I did just the fish poop method, and then I started using the easy green, and it started working even better. And then when I get into some things that, either, the water's off now. That's actually why I shut the camera off, because I turned the water off. But I keep just, now I'm at the point of I keep instinctively looking over. So we're going to set the pipe on hose over there. But I did find some things, they wanted too much nutrients. They wanted more than I could give them via fish poop, especially like your heavy root feeders, the Amazon swords, or even if I'm trying to give something a jump start. So I took my pink flamingo crypt that was kind of dwindling, and I potted it in some substrate with a root tab right underneath it. And it's done wonderful. My red tiger lotus, I took those bulbs, and as soon as they got some roots, I actually had I tucked in a root tab under each of them, and the root system on those bulb plants was just absolutely ridiculous where I put those root tabs in. I mean, I went to pull them out to move them, and the root systems were bigger than the plant actual system of all the stems and leaves and everything. Like, okay, wow. Interesting thing for a bulb plant. Jeff, you can definitely do it with that, Paul. 100%. Scroll through here. Good evening, Crystals, Pets, and Plants. Always good to see you, my friend. I hope you have been doing well. All right. Now we saw some more highlighted stuff. There it is. Gabriel's Glass Boxes says, are there any guidelines based around rescaping an already established box? There are probably some technical guidelines out there somewhere. Nothing that I really know of or adhere to. The biggest thing for rescaping, so if I go to rescape a tank, and they're heavily planted, well-established tanks, I just kind of pull everything and start it fresh. And I make sure that I have somewhere where the plants aren't going to dry out. You take into consideration how those things grow, if they're going to shoot out runners and stuff. And then when I replant it, I just replant accordingly. So if I've got, say I'm putting some val in a tank, I know that that stuff's going to shoot runners out everywhere. So when I replant it, I'll probably lightly plant it, unless I'm going for the fully aquascape look and I want the whole tank to look like it's been growing out for months and months and months. In which case you could densely plant it, but just know that that's going to be a lot more work for you. And again, I'm lazy/busy, and I don't want to have to deal with the tank every single day in terms of trimming plants necessarily, just to keep a look. So typically that's how I'll get plants into my other tanks, is I'll go through, I'll pull a bunch of stuff out, I'll keep, I don't know, 20 to 50% of what was in that tank will go back into it, and then the rest of it will go into other tanks so that I can start growing it out more and more in other places and spreading the love. But there's not really an established guide or set of things you have to do or not do. The only thing I would say is that if you are rescaping a dirted tank, those can be fun. And my big tip for those would be, if you've got a dirted tank with a sand cap and you're trying to get the plants out, I like to gently do like small tugs, kind of wiggle it out. And I found that barely any dirt will come out that way. You just kind of, you're almost reverse threading all the roots back up out of there. So very little dirt actually gets through that sand cap. Whereas if you just go in and yank it out,
all back.
Exactly. If you just go in and yank it out, that can cause issues. Now, if it's like a big Amazon sword that's going to have, you know, a massive root structure, I would probably have the siphon tube ready. That way I could pull it and then be trying to suck as much of that dirt water out as possible. Maybe have your fish in a separate bucket out of that water, just for whatever you may stir up in there. But honestly, I usually, if I'm rescaping something, I'll drain it down, I don't know, 40% capacity, maybe less. Just depends on what plants are in there and what I'm doing with it, how I'm escaping it or replanting it. Just do what I want to do with it. Have fun and enjoy it. That would be the big thing, is have fun. What about you, Ed? Any thoughts?
I'm 100% with you. Just try to keep your low light plants in the low light areas, so that way you aren't also, like if you're doing a lot of different plants, you don't want to put something that uses a lot of light in the corners. Put that right in the middle, so that way it's going to get a lot of light under your light.
Absolutely. So Rin Posh says, my question for the week is, how long do you quarantine new plants for? I just got some new ones from Aquarium Co-op this week. So I personally do not typically quarantine new plants, depending upon the environment. So let's say if I were in an area where I was able to go out and get plants from the wild, those I would be quarantining and also treating. You can look up, there are several different methods for, like, say, if you're worried about pest nails or things like that. There are several different methods, from bleach to H2O2 to a couple of other things, for doing plant dips to try and kill those things off. So typically, if I'm in a situation where one might think of quarantining, I would just do a plant dip. And then once I've dipped those plants, I'll get them into the new setup. If it's a stem plant, like if I got some stem plants from the co-op, I would float those for a while, let them get some roots established, and then plant them, and plant them in their deep. And I would have root tabs in there for them, some sort of root-based fertilizer. But I don't typically, quote-unquote, quarantine plants that I'm ordering from an industrial plant supplier, or I'm getting from a local fish store or another hobbyist. I'll just do a dip on them. And there are a lot of things a lot of people have done videos on different methods for doing that. I know PeckTech's got one, and probably a dozen people in the chat have them, as well as many other YouTubers. That would be my.
I don't quarantine my plants. I received one time, I got a plant in the mail, and it had a parasite on it that gave a whole line of my guppies, oh gosh, what's it, the disease that makes them starve, thinning disease,
Wasting disease?
Gosh, well, it's a disease, it's a parasite that gets inside of them and eats all their food, and then they shrink down to nothing and die.
Yeah.
And I lost a whole line of my guppies because I got a piece of wood that someone sent me with a Nubius growing on it.
Mm-hmm.
And their fish maybe were bigger, tougher fish, that it doesn't, that disease doesn't bother them, but it wiped out all my guppies. So I'm careful that I'm with it now, real careful. But I don't dip it. I make sure that I know where I'm getting it from.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, this is not me giving the advice to do so. This is simply telling you what I typically do. So here's the hypocrite coming out. If it's from like an Aquarium Co-op, LRB, I got maybe some plants from Chattanooga Ed, like Ed's brought me plants before. That stuff typically goes straight in my tank. I may give it a look. I'm not worried about pest nails. And I know all of those people would recommend, hey, you're doing so at your own risk, kind of like not quarantining fish. But if it's someplace that I have had good luck with, and I can look at the plants, see that they're doing all right, I typically, I might give them a rinse off. A lot of times I give them a rinse off in some chlorinated water, or maybe soak them in chlorinated water. So not really a bleach dip, but, where I was at before had pretty high chlorine levels in the water, so I could just soak them in tap water and do that. So I may, in the future, do some very mild bleach dips going forward.
Yeah, I wish I would have done that. This person was proud they'd got this plant growing on wood and wanted to share one with me, and it's waste. The disease is the waste disease, where they waste away. It's like a little parasite that gets in the fish. It's a pain in the butt to get rid of.
It's typically wasting disease, but there could be some other things. Huge thanks, KG Tropical, with $20 super chat. So sorry for stepping on your toes for so long, fellas. John and Lisa, never an apology required from you all. Huge thanks for the super chat and all the support you all have always shown, both Ed and myself. Thank you all, and again, you will be missed on Thursdays. But you got to do what you got to do, and you got to do what's best for you and the channel and all that stuff. So thank you again for the support, both through the super chat and everything else that you all have done for us over the years. And I look forward to seeing you soon at whatever fishy event we may stumble into each other at. All right, it is a couple
We're on
minutes after
Tuesday.
10:30. Yeah, we're on Tuesdays at the planning meetings. Yeah, either way. So we'll see you. Real quick, Jasmine says, how can I keep floating plants alive? I always manage to kill all the floating plants, including duckweed. So,
Duckweed. I'd love to be able to kill my duckweed.
right, you found the secret here. You have found a trick, Jasmine. You need to bottle that and sell it. There are so many variables. The key things I would look at is what are you doing for lighting? Floating plants are really easy to light because they're right there at the surface. Unfortunately, a lot of times we get these really nice planted lights and we don't take into account the floating plant is this far away from the light, and we could actually be burning that plant out because it's getting too much light or it's getting heat coming off of those lights. I have seen that be an issue quite a few times with people that had trouble with floating plants. Is the light was, it's right on top of the tank. It's a really bright light. They've got it cranked up. They're like, hey, more light. That's a common thing that a lot of people do. You just pound more light into it. We need more things, more cowbell. And so that can be an issue. The other big thing with floating plants is most of them tend to absorb a lot of nutrients. They feed very, very heavily. I mean, they're water column feeders, but they feed a lot from the water column. Some people will use them as sponges, so to speak, in their tank. They've got a tank that parameters are out of whack. They'll throw those floating plants in there because they absorb so much so quickly. So it could be that they're just simply not getting enough nutrients. So that would probably be the first two things I would look at without knowing specifics or anything. I would make sure you're not burning them out with too much light too close, and I would make sure that you are getting them ample nutrients. And then I'm going to turn over to Ed because I had to leave a couple things for him to talk about.
I've got one other. It's weird because a lot of floating plants don't like to get wet, which is really bizarre. But if you've got a spray bar or somehow splash, that could also be damaging them. They like to stay dry on the top and wet on the bottom. And so like I've heard that that's a way to kill duckweed is to use spray bars. And like I know that a lot of my other floating plants don't like to be wet also, but I mean, I also have like lots of floating plants like water mysteria, and it's like just under the surface. So some of it comes up, but most of it's under the surface. So I don't know what would be getting that. I mean, it might be even a fish. Some fish really like to feast, might just be eating their roots, because the roots are delicious.
Absolutely, 100% correct. All right, so we're going to wrap it up because I've run over Ed's time. I'm going to say hi to Surf City Cichlids, who had a highlighted hello there, and Whip Swirl, there it is, with $2 super chat. Whip, my brother from another mother. Thank you so much. Good to see you, buddy. Next week, we will be doing 10 items that every fish keeper needs. Maybe a little bit late for gift ideas, but maybe not. But these are all things that all of us should have. Doesn't matter who you are, what you're keeping, how you're doing it. We all need these things, and new fish keepers tend to not realize it on at least half of these things until their hands in a tank and go, crap, I needed that. So we will have that next week. A huge thank you to all of you all. Of course, thanks to my buddy, pal, and co-host, Chattanooga Ed. We're going to be going to his live stream next. And Ed and I will talk during the week and decide what we're going to do in terms of our live streaming schedule and see if we bump up to fill that 8 o'clock time frame to keep people happy and occupied. It should send everybody over. I did manage to set up the send over to Ed, but if it doesn't, mods, if you would please throw a link in the chat for Chattanooga Ed. Until next time, a huge thank you to all the moderators, members, lurkers, listeners, super chatters, contributors, questioners, commentators, and of course the replay crew. I love you guys. Until next time, keep your fish healthy, keep yourselves healthy. Don't be afraid to catch yourself a little fish room fever. Take care, and I love you. Bye, guys. All right. Bye, guys.